Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Brandin Podziemski. We got a packed show for you guys lined up tonight. We're going to start off with the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Lakers last night. Obviously, LeBron James, Steph Curry, must-see TV every time those two square off. So we're going to get into everything about that game, talk about how the Western Conference standings are impacted, how both teams are doing leading up to these playoffs, and everything of that nature. Switching gears into the second segment, we're going to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies and the Miami Heat. Talk a little bit about Ja Morant, some recent news that came out about him earlier this morning, and talk about how both teams are looking. Talk a little bit about how they're looking before the playoffs hit. Recapping that game, I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we're gonna give a little bit of an update on that, as well as the game and the Ja Morant news, like I said. Going to the third segment, we're going to take a look at, we're going to give a preview of the Final Four matchups this weekend on both Saturday and Sunday. Give an update on both those games, give a preview of those games, how everybody's shaping up, all four teams, and who might be heading to the national championship game on Monday night. And for the last segment, we're going to touch on Carmelo Anthony. He got recently inducted into the 2025 Hall of Fame class. He didn't get inducted, but he was announced as part of the class as a first ballot Hall of Famer. We're going to cover his career, cover a little bit of what led to him getting this achievement, being named as part of this class, and everything in that nature. Before we get started, as always, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show. So to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask to use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for your questions and comments. And anything is unbelievably greatly appreciated from all of us. I apologize for that. But getting right into it, we're going to just head straight over to that game last night between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors took this one 123-116. Curry going for 37 points in this game, leading the game in points. And LeBron James pitching in another 33 points in the loss for him and the Lakers. An X factor for this game specifically was Brandin Podziemski. Brandin Podziemski went 6 for 7 from 3 in the first half, including a buzzer beater game winner to close out the half, and ultimately finished with 28 points in the game, finishing 8 for 10 from 3. He shot the lights out all night long, specifically in the fourth quarter when him and Austin Reaves were going back and forth, throwing haymakers at each other. Austin Reaves finished with 31 points in this game, but in the fourth quarter specifically, he went off for 20 points and was a big part in the Lakers coming back and making it as close as it was. The Warriors jumped out to an early 10-point lead to start out the game in the first quarter and really had the lead all game long from the opening tip as well. But specifically in that fourth quarter, the Lakers went on an 11-2 run to make the game a little bit closer, but they brought it to 105-100. But that was, of course, before Steph Curry and Brandin Podziemski started shooting the absolute lights out. One specific sequence, Steph Curry going for 3. Other side, Austin Reaves or LeBron answering, right back down the court. Podziemski shooting another 3 to answer. And then for a fourth, it was Austin Reaves. This was all back to back to back to back. All consecutive possessions. And it was just this fourth quarter of this game was played like a playoff game. Seriously, in all aspects of it. Both teams are fighting for their playoff seeds right now. They're both trying to avoid the Oklahoma City Thunder, trying to seal a good playoff seed so that they can get an easier road in this gauntlet. This because the Western Conference this year is an absolute gauntlet for the playoffs. But heading back over to the Warriors side of things, it's been a wild ride since the trade deadline for this team. Jimmy Butler going off for Jimmy Butler, since acquiring Jimmy Butler, the Warriors have a 19-5 record, including a 19-2 record when both Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler play together. Jumping from the 11 seed with the 25-26 record out of the play-in tournament, looking like this season might be another bust, might be another waste of Steph Curry's not a career, but another waste of his last few years, because Steph Curry's years are like LeBron's years. They're numbered, and he's come out and said it publicly before, and that's why the Warriors made that deal before the trade deadline. They were after Kevin Durant at first, but since that didn't pan out the way they liked it, Kevin Durant did not want to leave Phoenix. They switched their gazes over to Miami's situation and ultimately had a better package to give Miami than Phoenix, who was the other team in contention for the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. But Jimmy Butler has not even shown us exactly who he is. Jimmy Butler is most effective in the playoffs. He has the title Playoff Jimmy for a reason. And I know we didn't see it last year because he was hurt, but this team, coached by Hall of Fame head coach and player Steve Kerr, this team can go on an absolute run. They have a chance to win it all this year. And to go from 25-26 to now 45-31 with the 5th seed in the Western Conference in this year's Western Conference, with an opportunity to go as high as the 3 or 2 seed if all things go well, there is a world where they can capture the 2 seed and jump over the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Houston Rockets, which would be absolutely unbelievable. We're going to cover a little bit about that in the second segment of this show. But for this segment, the Warriors continue to perform when it matters most. Winning timely games, this time on the road, but they're on an absolute run right now, and they remind me of the Dallas Mavericks of last year, how they got hot in early March. Everybody started to write them off. Nobody really believed in them, but Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving started to heat up. This is a similar situation with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Draymond Green is a big reason why they're playing well. A defensive player of the year candidate right now. Excuse me. Specifically on the interior, Draymond's presence has been felt all season long on the interior. From an outside perspective, he's an unbelievable wing defender, and he's gotten Defensive Player of the Year honors before. But this year, he's been underrated in that position all year long. Also, he has multiple triple-doubles this year. He hasn't been the best scorer, but he scores when the team needs him to, and he's an unbelievable rebounder, an unbelievable facilitator, and he's been that way for the last decade. It was a big reason why Steph Curry captured that first championship in 2015. And many people called him the reason why the Golden State Warriors were as good as they were, because of Draymond Green's facilitating, the offense running through him with the ball in his hands. And he was like a floor general in a way. And you don't really see that from a power forward at his size and his position. So it's really unbelievable to see how this team is growing in front of our very eyes. And they have an opportunity to win it all. Switching gears to the Lakers side of things, the biggest concern that I have personally with the Lakers is their bench. The starters last night's going off for 109 points of the 116 points total scored throughout the game. The bench has to play better. Flat out, you can't be said better any other way. It can't be said any other way. To only have 7 points between those 4 or 5 guys that come off the bench for this team is just unacceptable. It's really just unacceptable. You're not, especially in a Western Conference as good as it is this year, you're not going to make it out of the first round. Never mind in any sort of playoff scenario, go on a deep playoff run. Um, but yeah, also on the defensive end of the ball, since the Lakers Nuggets game probably a few weeks back, 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back, when Luka Doncic went off and really that was the first time we saw Luka Doncic kind of show some of his Maverick-esque play. Um, LeBron James has also missed some time since then. That's definitely played a role in it. But the defense has not performed well. I got some numbers right here. They're 20 since LeBron James has come back from his injury. They're 27th in defensive rating, 28th in fast break defense, 26th in field goal defensive percentage, and 27th in three-point percentage defense. 4 categories that mean a lot come playoff time, especially when the game slows down. Some of that fast break defense will start to dwindle a little bit because of the game slowing down a lot, because of the high intensity, every possession meaning that much more. It's just, I don't know what's going to happen for this team. The biggest question mark that those are the 2 biggest question marks, but another kind of a smaller one right now. I think he's going to figure it out, but Luka has struggled as of late a little bit from on the shooting end of the ball. The biggest reason why the Lakers got Luka Doncic and were willing to trade Anthony Davis was because the biggest thing that the team was missing was the point guard, a floor general, an actual certified shot maker that they can rely on. And Luka Doncic has been like that all his whole career with the Mavericks. Last night, Luka only had 19 points last night. Only shooting about 6 for 6. I believe it was 6 for 17 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3-point range. It's not bad. Do not get me wrong. It is not that bad. But to be shooting that much, to be having the ball as much in his hands as much as Luka Doncic does have the ball in his hands, it's unacceptable, flat out unacceptable to be performing at that clip. We all know the Luka Doncic that we've seen with the Dallas Mavericks the last 2 seasons, 4 or 5 seasons in the NBA, specifically in the playoffs, having multiple highlight games in the playoffs. Specifically last year, making a finals appearance, bringing the Dallas Mavericks to the finals. Not all on his back. He had Kyrie Irving, but the ball was in his hands and the offense came through him. And a lot of the reason they had their success last year was because of Luka Doncic. If the Lakers want to have success this year in these playoffs, which are even more heightened and even more competitive, he's going to need to perform at that clip, and he's going to need it with LeBron, who we all know will do that. LeBron has done it for years now. He is 40 years old, but we've seen it every year, time and time again. LeBron show up on the occasion in the playoffs and really perform to the LeBron James standard we have for him. But Warriors currently at the 5 seed, Lakers at the 4. And like I said, they're only 1 game back on the Lakers. The Lakers are half a game back on the Nuggets. Tonight, the Warriors are facing off against the Nuggets in what will be a massive game. The Lakers are facing the Pelicans. They should win that game, barring some injury report or an unbelievable collapse on there. If they lose, this is a massive game if they lose this game. Every game from here on out for every team in playoff contention in the Western Conference is a massive game. Every game is. Whether it's a difficult opponent, a playoff opponent, or just somebody that's not been playing as well this season. Every game is important. Every win is crucial. And the Lakers can't go about taking games lightly. They just can't. Teams do not mind, especially professionals, do not have any care in playing spoiler. They do not mind. They will go for the opportunity because it gives them a boosted look for their following summers, this free agencies. They'll look better in free agency, getting a contract. They're professionals. These guys are all playing for livelihoods. They all have their own things going on. So, going back to the topic at hand, yeah, that is the state between these two teams, and it's going to be interesting to see where everybody lines up before the playoffs start. But I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies and the Miami Heat game, take a look at both teams in the playoff contention as well, see how everybody stacks up, and take a look at everything of that nature. I'm going to take a short break, and we're going to take a look at that. Be right back, guys.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, as always, Brandin Podziemski. In this second segment, we're going to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies Miami Heat game, talk about everything about that game, recap how the playoff seedings have changed from there. The Grizzlies, obviously part of the Western Conference, how they're looking, how they're shaping up, how the win affects them, as well as the Miami Heat, what they're kind of looking for come playoff time, as well as how they're standing in the play-in tournament where they sit right now. As always, before I get started, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC content, GSMC Sports Network content specifically. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for your questions. This puts your question to the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But getting right back into the good stuff. The Memphis Grizzlies and Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies took out the Miami Heat last night. Ja Morant with a game winner in that game to lift the Grizzlies over the Miami Heat. Grizzlies were on a four-game losing streak prior to this game. Miami was on a 6-game win streak, and a Ja Morant game winner with time expiring ends this game for the Memphis Grizzlies. Ja Morant has been unbelievable all year. We know he's been in the news lately with the firing of Taylor Jenkins. The superstar player of this team is always going to be in the news for that. If he had an impact on it, if he had a something to do with it, especially in a spontaneous firing like Taylor Jenkins was, we'll probably never know about it. We'll probably never hear about what exactly transpired to cause that, but we can only speculate, and that is one of the first places to look when it comes to a situation like that. The Grizzlies were down 9-0 to start this game, and ultimately came back, climbed their way back into it, and ultimately won this game 110-108. Tyler Hero finished with 35 points in this game. Not 35 points. Ja Morant on the other side finished with 30. Desmond Bane with 17. Scottie Pippen Jr., who's been unbelievable for the Grizzlies off the bench this year, finishing with 17. It's either the Grizzlies love to switch out him and Stefan Aldama. Really love to switch them in and out of the lineup in that starting lineup. On the other side, it was Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. Obviously, no Jimmy Butler there anymore, but the two guys that have been there for the last 6 years, Bam Adebayo, obviously an all-pro center. Tyler Hero has been an all-star for the last few years as well, an all-star shooter, especially in college. Coming into the NBA, he's continued to deliver with that standard. One of the best shooting seasons of his career so far, and he's taken a big step forward. It took some time. The Heat took a little bit of a step back after the Jimmy Butler trade, but Tyler Hero has really immersed himself in this offense as the leader, working with Bam Adebayo as well to lead this team into the playoffs the way they have. The Heat currently sit at the 9 seed in the Eastern Conference with a 35-42 record. They're currently 3 games now behind the Orlando Magic for the 7 seed, which would ultimately allow them to host a playoff game when those playoffs arrive. But the bigger story of course, is the Western Conference, Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies, just 2 weeks ago, sitting in the 4 seed, I believe. It was the 3 or the 4 seed at one point, and falling all the way down to the 8 seed. They're currently at the 7. They're tied between 5 and 7. There's now a tie. Funny enough, all the teams that were in a tie yesterday, outside of the Clippers, who did not play, between the 5 and 8 seeds, it's now a 3-way tie because the Clippers didn't play. It's now the Warriors. The Warriors lead because they have one less game played, but they have the same amount of wins. The Grizzlies and Timberwolves are tied at 45 and 32. Warriors have a 45 and 31 record with one less loss, but at the same time, one less game played. But yeah, how are the Memphis Grizzlies going to shape up come playoff time? If you ask me right now, I'd say the Western Conference is just so loaded. With firing the way that the Memphis Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins, I don't know how they're going to recover the way. I just don't know how they're going to recover from it. I don't know if they're going to be able to ultimately fully recover before the playoffs to be in the seeding contest, between the 5 and 8 seeds. I really do think it's going to be the Warriors and the Timberwolves that end up out of that play-in tournament for the 5 and 6 seeds. Warriors could go up as well. Both teams could honestly go up or down. But those two teams, and for the 7 and 8, it will be the Los Angeles Clippers and the Memphis Grizzlies in that order. Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation for the Grizzlies, but an even more unfortunate situation is what the recent news that came out this morning about Ja Morant specifically. Ja Morant fined $75,000 hours after being warned by the NBA for weapon. I think the best way to call it is weapon gestures. I'm not gonna put it up here, obviously, just because this is a family-friendly airways. But yeah, that's the best way I can call it. He used some gestures towards the Miami Heat bench, the same ones he did 2 nights prior against the Golden State Warriors, literally hours after being warned by the NBA that they didn't like to see it, that it was a warning, they were just going to swipe it under the rug, and ultimately, Ja Morant does it not once, but twice, immediately in the first quarter, after hitting a 3. And that was that. The NBA was very swift with their discipline, hitting him with the $75,000 fine. And I believe if he's going to continue to try and test the league the way he has these last 2 times, it's going to be another suspension. It's probably going to be a suspension, a 1-game suspension. I don't believe it to be more than that, but with the games mattering as much as they are, if he does it in a playoff game, it's even worse. But if he does it right now, it could be really bad. With playoffs rolling around quick, fast, and in a hurry in 2 weeks, every game mattering for seeding. The Grizzlies pretty much control their own destiny for that. It's really the best way to call it. They're in the mix. They can do it. It's just a matter of if they can. If it's realistic that they can. And right now, with how they've performed, maybe they can get hot. Maybe they can string some wins together. Maybe they can turn the ship around. They can prove everybody wrong. They hold the cards. They hold their own destiny. They hold their own, the way they're going to be portrayed going into the playoffs. They control all of that right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. For the Miami Heat, I personally believe that they're going to capture the 8th seed. They will probably move up, in my opinion, to either the 7 or the 8. I believe it's going to be Orlando, Miami, and then Atlanta. But it's really anybody's game here. They hold their own cards as well. And if the biggest question mark is, can they face Boston? Can they get the 7th seed and face Boston in the first round? Because it's either they face Boston in the first round or they face Cleveland if they get the 8th seed. And as a Boston Celtics fan, it strikes fear in all of our hearts the second we see anybody in a Miami Heat uniform across from us, especially come playoff time, with how it's been the last 5 years. And even before then, we touched on this a little bit yesterday, with simply how Erik Spoelstra knows how to stop the Boston Celtics scheme. It's terrifying for all of us. So that's all I'm going to talk about that. I'm sorry for getting a little bit emotional, but it's the truth. And it's all that needs to be said. If Miami can face Boston in the first round, I'm not going to say Miami's going to win that series, but they could make it interesting. They could send it to a game 6 or potentially a game 7. And it would not be an easy series by any stretch. I believe Cleveland can take them out a little bit easier with their shot making, their defense, their all-around play. But yeah, I think Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are so familiar with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and the Celtic style that they can be very, very dangerous to Boston if they face them. But yeah, Tyler Hero continues to perform as a leader for the Miami Heat on pretty much the complete opposite of John Morant. Not as talented as John Morant, but Tyler Hero is very clean with his play, very, very class-oriented, very just show up, play basketball, and leave type of guy. Doesn't really engage in shenanigans on the court, off the court, none of that. You don't really hear anything bad about him. Him and Bam Adebayo, and it's really all thanks to Erik Spoelstra. The way Erik Spoelstra coaches them, the way he sets the standard. Pat Riley as well has been over that organization for over a quarter century. He definitely has a lot to do with the culture in Miami right now. And those two players have ingratiated it, and they're really entering their primes and carrying that legacy that Jimmy Butler had left for them, that legacy that Pat Riley and Erik Spoelstra have carried. They've started to carry that torch for the next group of guys. But yeah, that's pretty much the state of the affairs in between both of those teams. The Grizzlies, obviously, in a worse for wear position here because of how competitive their schedule is coming up. Their next game is against the Detroit Pistons, which will be an absolutely animated and unbelievable game. I think if the Timberwolves and the Pistons had fireworks, the Grizzlies and Pistons are going to have fireworks. That's just how those two teams are built. They're built very similarly, wearing their heart on their chest, and very animated on the court, trash talking, all of it. They're just two teams that are incredibly competitive, and especially the Detroit Pistons with how scrappy they are and with their tight. Granted, honestly, with the title of Bad Boy Pistons version 2, pretty much. They're very reminiscent of the Bad Boy Pistons. But that's neither here nor there. Coming up next, we're going to take a look. We're going to switch gears to the collegiate level. I know March Madness hasn't been as much of a topic this week just because there hasn't been any games. The NCAA tournament is sadly coming to a close again. Another year gone by, and we're going to take a look at the Final Four to see who is going to the national championship game come Monday night. I'm going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at Final Four related, everything Final Four related.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. In this segment, we're going to take a look at the Final Four coming up on Saturday and Sunday. First comes first. Yeah, it's going to be an unbelievable matchup in both games here. To start out, game one, we have Florida versus Auburn. And then to close out the weekend, we have Duke and Houston. Both games going to be unbelievable, really. Both games have strengths and both teams are going to be unbelievable. Both games are going to be unbelievable, and it's just going to be a privilege to watch these games here. Starting tomorrow afternoon. Starting out with the Florida and Auburn game. This game is really going to be dictated by guard play. I think Walter. Sorry, I apologize for that. Starting with Auburn, we're going to start with Auburn on this side. In this case, Auburn's going to be really formidable this year, especially with Johnny Broome. Johnny Broome's been unbelievable all tournament long. He's averaged a double-double in every game this season, in every tournament game so far. He has had a double-double in points and rebounds, and he's been formidable in the paint. It's going to be really interesting to see how Florida's going to be able to combat that, because if they need to figure out a way to, if they don't, this game could get out of hand quick, fast, and in a hurry. Also, it's going to be really interesting to see how they defend Auburn's guard play, specifically with the it's going to be really important for Florida to be able to stop Auburn's guard play, specifically with Tyler Pettiford. Tyler Pettiford had a very massive impact in the Elite Eight matchup against Michigan State for Auburn. Tyler Pettiford comes off the bench for the Tigers as well. But it's going to be really important for Florida to stop the guard play. But like I said, Johnny Broome is the biggest X factor in this game. If Darian Williams on Texas Tech had problems guarding had trouble guarding Broome on the interior, it's just going to be like, I don't know how Florida's going to be able to. They're going to have to figure out something to stop Broome. If Darian Williams on Texas Tech had a problem guarding, if Darian Williams is able to get in the lane for Texas Tech against Thomas Haug for Florida, if he was targeting Thomas Haug in the second half the way he was in that game for Texas Tech and Florida, Florida could be in a world of trouble when Johnny Broome comes knocking in this game. So Florida will have an answer for that. They will be able to figure it out. I believe they will. Florida is in one of the most competitive conferences in the NCAA, in the SEC. So they've been battle tested all season long. They have a week off to relax. They have a week off to get healthy and scheme how to cover, how to lock up actually Johnny Broome. And they will figure out a way to do it. But it's going to be interesting to see because from a fan perspective, from a stats perspective, there's really no way to do it. Johnny Broome also got injured in that game against Michigan State, going out with an elbow injury. It's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be 100% healthy come this weekend, but it looked like a simple hyperextension of the elbow in that game, and he was able to return after about 5 minutes of missed play. So we'll really see what happens in this one because it's hard to read, like I said, from a fan's perspective, because it's really just hard to see how this game's going to go. It's going to be a very, very close game. Also, the player I was talking about before, I apologize, I couldn't get his name right, but Walter Clayton was absolutely massive for the Gators against Texas Tech last weekend. Hitting timely threes, scoring 30 points for the Gators in the game, getting to the free throw line, getting the ball out of his hands, being able to facilitate that offense. The offense runs through Walter Clayton as a whole. So it's really going to be interesting to see how Auburn defends that from the guard play of Florida. But if you ask me right now, I think Auburn comes away with the win in this one by 4 points or so. And it'll be a very close game. It'll be a wire-to-wire game. But I think the final moments are going to be about free throws, about getting to the free throw line. And I think the size of Auburn is just going to be too much for Florida to handle. I think the biggest weakness that Florida has to be able to strike in this game is the three ball. Because Auburn scores a lot of points from the paint. They score a lot more twos than they do threes. If Florida can get the three ball going early, it'll not only put Auburn in a more staggered position because obviously you're scoring threes. Auburn's only scoring twos. They're going to be worried about, can they handle everything? Can they keep up with Florida, pretty much is what I'm saying. And it's going to really open up the paint. It's going to open up Thomas Haug. It's going to open up those big men down low. It's going to be interesting to see it's just going to be we can preview it from the sidelines beforehand as much as we want. But this game is really going to be a game of how does the game actually end up going when that first buzzer sounds, when that ball goes up in the air for the tip-off. How is the game going to be directed? How is the game going to be played? Is it going to be more of a 3-point game from Florida? Is it going to be a paint domination from Johnny Broome? There are multiple different ways this game could go and multiple different outcomes that favor both teams. But like I said, I'm favoring Auburn by about 4 points or so to close out this game and head to the national championship game. On the other side, it will be the Duke Blue Devils taking on the Houston Cougars. This game will obviously be about the Duke offense handling the Houston defense. We've seen it all year long that when Houston is able to lock down their opponent's offense, especially when LJ Cryer and Jawan Roberts are working inside out to get that offense rolling, the Cougars are borderline unbeatable. The only, like, it doesn't even matter if the defense is going at that point. When Cryer and Jawan Roberts are going, that offense is borderline unstoppable. When Emmanuel Sharp has his 3 ball going, it's just, we saw it against Tennessee in their game, in Houston's game this past weekend, when Emmanuel Sharp hit 3 threes all in a row against the Volunteers. When the Volunteers cut the lead down to 10 points, when they made a run to take the lead, to make the game close, to make things interesting, it was Emmanuel Sharp that came up big for the Cougars to end up sealing this game away. But for Duke, like I said, it's about Cooper Flagg. It's about Con Knippel. Con Knippel had a massive game against Alabama last weekend, scoring 21 points, hitting timely threes as well. Very similar to how Emmanuel Sharp and Walter Clayton were playing. He was everywhere. He was facilitating the Cooper Flagg was facilitating the offense. He was taking more of a step back from shooting, from scoring, because of how Alabama was defending them. He was always they were always throwing a double team at Cooper Flagg. So Cooper Flagg became more of a facilitator, and Con Knippel was the guy he looked at, and Knippel answered that call. It just reminds me, he reminds me so much of Klay Thompson, like a very young Klay Thompson, a catch and shoot player. Very smart with the basketball, very bright IQ when it comes to in-game play, which is crucial, especially when the game picks up in the playoffs. In-game IQ, in-game adjustments by yourself, noticing things and adjusting to them by yourself to get yourself open. It's what separates you from the good and the great players in not only collegiate basketball, but playoff basketball in the NBA as well. So it's a great sign that, and as a freshman as well, it's a great sign that he has a high potential. And honestly, if it wasn't for Cooper Flagg, with how big of a name Cooper Flagg was before college, how he's been in college, and how his draft stock looks right now as a top 3 potential pick in this year's NBA draft, Con Knippel would be the leader of this team, would be the face of this team. And it's just going to be interesting how that plays out in this game. But yeah, it's all about basically Houston does hold the cards of this game. Can they stop this Duke offense? Or will Duke's offense just be too much for the Houston defense to handle? And can Duke's defense hold Houston's offense if the Duke offense starts failing? Can they stop LJ Cryer? Can they stop Jawan Roberts? Can they get Jawan Roberts in foul trouble like Tennessee did in the first half, getting him to 3 early fouls before halftime and forcing him to sit on the bench for the first 5 minutes of the second half as well? It's really all about these guys. It's really all about how these guys perform in these games, because it's about the gameplay. It really feels, these games are so much different than previewing NBA games, because NBA games you can kind of figure out how schemes are played. There's more games played. There's more film on teams. There's more film on guys, how their tendencies, all of that. But it's going to be very interesting the way these two coaches, in Kelvin Sampson and the Duke head coach, the first-year head coach after Coach K retired last year. It's going to be very interesting to see how Coach Shire is able to scheme his team to get past these Houston Cougars, or Kelvin Sampson get his team past the Duke Blue Devils to possibly, in my opinion, face the Auburn Tigers or the Florida Gators in the national championship game. My prediction, I gave I gave you both sides of the coin. I gave you both scenarios, how anything can happen. For both teams, I gave scenarios. But if you ask me right now, I have more faith. I know defense wins you championships, offense wins you games. This is a game. This is not the championship yet. And I think Duke's offense is going to be too much for Houston's defense to handle, and they're going to ultimately find themselves in the national championship game on Monday night. And we are going to see Duke versus Auburn in that game. It's going to be an unbelievable game. These two games are probably going to end up being the games of the tournament. And I don't see either of them being blowouts. I think they're both going to be wire to wire to the end of the game. Eyes glued to the screen. So, those are my predictions. That's the preview for the Final Four. I'm going to take one last short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony being inducted into as part of the 2025 Hall of Fame class. So we'll take a look at Carmelo Anthony's career and everything about that. So I'll take one last short break, and we'll be right back with that.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Meir Fatemi. To get into this last segment here, we're gonna talk about Carmelo Anthony joining the 2025 Hall of Fame class, and kind of overview his career and how he got there. So pretty much, starting out, he started out being drafted third overall, in 2003 to the Denver Nuggets, and bringing that team to the playoffs. And he was a star in Denver. He really put Denver on the map. He was part of the LeBron James class of 2003, and yeah, over the course of 8 seasons, he was the heart and soul for the Denver Nuggets. And quote in quotes, I just had to put, not in quotes, I'm quoting him. He said, "I'm just trying to put Denver back on the map," and that's exactly what he did. 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA selection, 9th on the all-time scoring list when he retires, over 28,000 points. His impact was felt on every side of the ball. But it was not until he joined the New York Knicks in 2011 that Carmelo Anthony went from just a young budding star to the megastar that's known all around the world today. Carmelo Anthony was one of my favorite players growing up, even as a Boston Celtics fan, having to deal with him in the 2010s. They knocked us out multiple times from the playoffs, but Carmelo Anthony was iconic. The iconic jab step and fall away three. Didn't matter if there was a hand in his face. Didn't matter who was guarding him. He just sat there, smiled, and methodically beat you. He was just a absolute legendary shot maker. One of the first of his kind. But his most iconic years, like I said, were in New York, playing in Madison Square Garden for the New York Knicks. Obviously he got the title Mellow there. And ever since then, from playing in the Olympics to then after joining the Olympics in 2014, which was an iconic year, one of the best basketball teams ever assembled that in history. Carmelo Anthony is known everywhere. But like many stars, his journey had highs and lows, and his game was very mid-range heavy. And because of that, he kind of was part of the old style of NBA players that were very slow-paced, very methodical, very ISO is the best way to describe his style of play. To now, how team-oriented things are, how fast-paced it is. The ball is constantly it's just everybody's so unselfish. Everybody gets a piece of the pie, versus back then it was the stars taking the show, taking control, taking the horse by the reins, followed by the outside counterparts. Today's game are just like so much pace, so much space, so much. The film, the issue with the game today, it's not even an issue. It's just the way technology has adapted, has improved, has allowed for film to be done on these players constantly. There's always a camera on, so it allows scouts and coaches to kind of always get a sneak peek of what you're working on, little tidbits of what to expect in their next game, and they get their schemes, but then they learn to counter the other team's schemes. And that's kind of what happened to Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony's style just got very picked up on, people just started picking up on it, is basically what I'm saying. And that's where his career started to decline. Fast forwarding, Carmelo eventually gets released by the New York Knicks and he actually got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder by the New York Knicks. And with Paul George and Russell Westbrook, that was one of personally my favorite teams ever assembled. Right after Paul George had been injured in the 2012 Olympic or 14 Olympics, after a stint with the Pacers, he was traded to Oklahoma City. A lot of people were really speculating about how good Paul George would be, but we hadn't really seen any of the regression, and that was probably arguably one of Paul George's best seasons, and many consider him to have been the MVP of that season in I believe it was 2015 or 2016. Wow, time flies. But he was there for a short little while, about 2 years, then jumping over to Houston. Melo just started finding himself. He really just he never changed his game. That he never allowed anybody to change him and his ideology. He always stuck with the ISO play, and it always worked for him. But he could just never take the smaller role in another offense. He always had to be the star of the show, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the way he played, and unfortunately, that's what caused him. That was the beginning of the end for Carmelo Anthony. Trading, always continuing to get traded, first from the Thunder to the Rockets, then eventually to the Portland Trailblazers for a little while. He played well in Portland with Damian Lillard. It was a little bit of a redemption arc for him. He was a really reliable veteran for a young team. Obviously, Damian Lillard was very young at the time. And it was just really it was outstanding to see Carmelo Anthony starting to show some of his old self again. It's just he just really he wasn't as much. He kind of accepted the smaller role to the best of his ability, and just was very gritty, very, very team oriented. Just being a leader in the locker room, trying to help try and develop the young guys, and just be a role model for the rookies of that team, because it was such a young team. He ended up winning a playoff series with Damian Lillard before his departure, and he was out of the league for about a year. But as we all know, from Melo fans, myself, and everybody around the world, Melo never gives up. He ended up going to just training by himself, continuing to keep improving his game the best he can, keeping himself polished. The player that comes to mind when comparing Carmelo Anthony is Jason Tatum. Very similar heights, very similar style games. Um, not Isaiah Thomas. Jason Tatum is more team oriented. Honestly, he doesn't take as many shots as Carmelo Anthony did. He wasn't the focal point of the offense, but when the ball is in his hands, Jason Tatum is very Carmelo Anthony-esque. His fadeaway shot, his three-point shot, his dribbling, lulling you to sleep, and then obviously hitting the iconic step back in your face just because of how tall he is. Nobody can reach the arc of his shot, at the peak of his shot before he releases it. Nobody can reach it to block it. Very similar to how Carmelo was, and just being clutch. The biggest thing that Carmelo Anthony was, he was always a clutch scorer. And that's what he did with the Los Angeles Lakers in 2022. It was kind of a farewell tour for him, but it was not really a big goodbye. It was just kind of just like a quiet final season of his career, playing with his draft mate LeBron James, the last of his class in the 2003 draft class, LeBron James. And it was just everybody that was a Melo fan knew it was his last year, and they all came to thank him for his time in the NBA, thank him for everything, and just experience him on the court one last time. And then obviously stepping away after 2022. Since then, we obviously saw 2 days ago, he was announced as part of the 2025 Hall of Fame class, surrounded by family, smiles, tears, everything. You saw in the video how much it meant to Carmelo Anthony to be a part of this class, to be a part of the Hall of Fame. He didn't even think he could make it there. He really, we knew as fans his worth, but Carmelo Anthony was such a humble human being, a humble guy on the court, never taking anything for granted, just a stand-up, great guy on the court, classy, upfront, direct with his performance, always giving back to fans, and truly one of the best players, one of the best class acts we've seen come into the NBA. And for as long as he did it at the clip, at the level that he did. Since stepping away, Melo's been really active on the court as well. Launching a company called Creative 7. It's a media company producing documentaries and films. He's spoken out on social justice, education reform, and even sat courtside to mentor his son, who's now a rising high school prospect. His son's name is Keon Anthony, and he has a very similar game, honestly. He doesn't have the height that Carmelo had, but he has a similar ISO style step back, and he gets it from his son. The smile, the head nod, the pride, it's all there, and it's very Carmelo-esque. It's very fun to see his son play. We haven't seen that many games of him, but there are videos out there circulating on YouTube that show exactly what I'm talking about. But Carmelo is more than a scorer. He's a Hall of Famer, not just because of what he did, but what he stands for. To the game, to himself, and to the people that saw him as more than just the number iconic 7. That's where the company gets its name, Creative 7, because he always wore number 7 for the New York Knicks. But yeah, I just wanted to give a little shout out to Carmelo Anthony, give him the credit he deserves, and I can't wait to see him on Hall of Fame night wearing that gold coat, being a part of the Hall of Fame class, standing with the rest of those guys. A little bit ago, Dwight Howard just got announced to be part of the class as well, so it's going to be it's unbelievable to see him standing there with Carmelo, and just congratulations. It's the only thing I can really say. The Hall of Fame just got a little bit smoother, just a little bit better. But yep, that's the show for the day. I just wanted, of course, as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference than you'd think. seriously, we get to hear what you guys think, what we can improve upon, everything and anything that you guys think can be better or that you enjoyed about the show. Please let us know in that review or in the comments section. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you once again. I'm your host, Meryl Fatemi, checking off for the day, taking off for the show. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to